Hey there, how are things going for you? I know this last week I've had a cold, so I feel like I'm a bit behind. And yesterday I had a conversation with a client that I asked how things were going, and they're in a busy time of the year for them. And well, honestly, we both had a similar response, and it's not the ideal response. So I thought I would share it today in case perhaps you are having one of those moments. The response that I had for myself when I was really thinking this morning on how are things going was a list of all the things that I feel I'm a little behind on because I was sick last week and I'm a little worried about. Okay, it's real, but not very helpful. When I asked my client yesterday, how do you feel things are going? His instant response was, well, a little overwhelmed. Okay, now again, that may be a true statement, and yet those are not helpful. So I think this might be a great time for a reminder. Now, this tendency of response tends to show up in three different places that I can think of. We're in a really busy time of the year. We are nearing a deadline of some sort. It could be for you right now that we are in the last month of a quarter, if you happen to have quarterly goals. And for me, if we've been either on vacation, in my case, not on vacation, but sick, just a cold, but still slowed me down, changed things. When we are in these times, which honestly, it's a form of stress, we will have a tendency to do something that doesn't help us. When we ask ourselves a question, how's it going? Basically, what we're looking for there is what are our recent wins? What have we accomplished? And my answer was not about looking at what I accomplished last week. My client, when I asked him, wasn't answering from the perspective of how much of the work have they completed during this busy time. It was from what's all left to do. You've heard me say before, always measure backwards. When we are measuring our progress, we're looking from where we are today and we're looking backwards to where we started the project, the busy time of the year. And we're saying, what have we accomplished during that time? That's measuring our progress. And then we celebrate the progress that we've made. When we feel good about something, we are much more likely to continue. That's why celebrating is so important. And that's why measuring backwards matters so much. So, this is a reminder as you are looking at this week, no matter what the recent past has been, maybe you are in a busy time of the year, maybe you're just getting back from vacation, maybe you've had a cold. We want to anchor ourselves in what have we accomplished, and that requires us measuring backwards for our accomplishments. That's called the gain. This is pointing out to ourselves all the things that we have accomplished, all the things that we have done, and then pause to celebrate. My first reaction this morning put me in the gap. So, the gap is when we are setting goals, we are looking at where we are today and we are looking into the future. And that's the gap. So, we know where we are today, we know where we want to be. And so, we're setting that goal and we're going to start navigating through the gap. As we move through that gap, as we move closer to that goal, to the deadline, then what we will create is a gain. So if you think about it, I have set some goals for the quarter. So at the beginning of the quarter, I set the goals into the future and there was a gap. So here's where I am today. Here's where I want to be. And I'm going to move forward to close the gap. As I close the gap, I'm creating a gain. And the gain is when I look at today where I am and I look at where I was at the beginning of the quarter, I'm measuring my gain. That's why we want to measure backwards. We're celebrating that. And yet, for many of us, in particular in times of stress, what we will default to is when someone asks that question or we're thinking about it, we skip over everything we've accomplished and we go to all of the things that have yet to be done. That's what my client did yesterday. That's what I did this morning. So I thought this would be a great time in case maybe you have fallen into the gap also. Now remember, gap is helpful. Gap is what we look at when we're setting goals. When we are really looking at what we've accomplished, we want to measure backwards and we're looking for our gain. What have we accomplished? So take a few minutes if you've not stopped recently, like in the last 24 hours, to really look at what you've accomplished. Choose your time frame. You could say from the beginning of the month. Yes, I know it's only a few days, doesn't matter. What are your recent wins? Be sure you are measuring backwards and then pausing to celebrate what you've accomplished. That's it for this week. I'll see you next week. Bye.